Yo, so guys, welcome back to another video, and this is going to be a fun one. I feel like this is going to get a lot of dislikes. I'm not here for the political side, even though this is a very political video. I'm just here to see what they've done. And I know the comments are already going to be very for or against certain presidents or things that they've done. I just know the comment section is going to be toxic as fuck. But yeah, I'm just here to see something great about every president in the US history, as the title said, or in US history. And when he says about every president, I hope he actually means every president and he doesn't like miss some here and there. But I assume it's not the longest video and there's been a lot of presidents. So either he's going to touch upon each thing very lightly or he just misses out a lot of presidents. We're going to see. But there's also a video from what I've seen, something ugly about every president in US history. Again, these videos are going to get a lot of dislikes and a lot of people commenting, like saying just things that they don't agree with in the video. I'm just here to see, alright? Don't shoot the messenger. I'm not really the messenger, but just don't shoot me, alright? I'm just here to look at this video, but hopefully you're going to enjoy. We like the video no matter what. I mean, I just leave likes when I get into videos. Even if I don't like them, I just like them. I don't know why. I'm a weird guy. But yeah, hopefully you guys are going to enjoy. Suggest some more videos like this you want to see in future. Shout out to my Instagram, my Twitter, links in the description for those interested in following. Same for my Patreon, links were there for those interested. And I mean, yeah, let's just check this out, man. Starting with DJ. DJ? Is this middle name? What's his middle name? Is it J? Wait. I don't know why. DJ Trump. Donald Trump. Middle name. I don't even know what I'm saying now, is it? Oh, my Wi-Fi's not even working. What's going on here? Alright, we'll leave this just to... Why can't I... This site... We'll let this load for a little bit and we'll get into the video.
I am going to issue our notification of intent to withdraw from the Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Donald Trump did something almost no other modern president would have when he withdrew the United States from the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Critics of TPP like Bernie Sanders, Robert Reich, and Noam Chomsky have pointed out, I think accurately, that the proposed trade deal was designed as a massive handout to multinational corporations at the expense of everyday working people.
These are investor right agreements. There's a reason why they're kept secret from the public.
Barack Obama ended a fruitless and harmful...
So starting from the most recent president to the first president. Obviously, the video is 4 years old, so we're missing out the most recent president, Biden, but... And maybe Trump done something in the meantime that was actually better than that, but I can't help it, can I?
Period of severe hostility towards Cuba by normalizing trade relations. He took out Osama bin Laden and put a stop to waterboarding.
Of course, the big one. That's probably one of the best things I feel like any president's done. Taking out bin Laden, man. For sure.
Which is considered to be torture under international law. Think what you will of George W. Bush, he is certainly not a man of hate.
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
He was ridiculed when he said that being called a racist was one of the low points of his presidency.
I resent it. It's not true. And it was one of the most disgusting moments of my presidency.
But I think it reflects a genuine distaste for prejudice and bigotry. After all, even though it was his administration that began the war on terror, he was always clear to distinguish terrorism from Islam.
Our nation is waging a war on a radical network of terrorists, not on a religion.
Do we all worship the same God, Christian and Muslim?
I think we do.
His teachings are good and peaceful, and those who commit evil in the name of Allah blaspheme the name of Allah.
Last week I posted a video talking about the ugly side of every president in history. Here I'm going to do the reverse. While every president has had flaws, none has been a pure villain. Although, to be honest, some are pretty close.
I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow.
You're going to be proud of your president.
Tear down this wall.
Ask not what your country can do for you.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
The leader of Al-Qaeda.
Read my lips.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
Question time.
George Washington defined what it means to be the president of the United States.
Which is why we just started with the first three presidents, most recent ones, and now we've just gone back to the start.
He successfully led the American Revolution to victory as Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army, and was dedicated to Enlightenment principles of reason and rationality. He was a champion of Republican values, and despite owning slaves during his lifetime, he was the only prominent founding father to free all of them upon his death. John Adams never owned slaves and considered the practice abhorrent. Historians have noted him as a clear, free thinker, often disagreeing with his own political party. And he certainly was a fine father, as his son...
I feel like that's a rarity, disagreeing with your own party. Does that happen a lot nowadays? Again, I don't know much about politics, and I said I don't want to make this political. But when it comes to, like, obviously you're in your party, they have their own sort of beliefs as a party, but then obviously you have your own beliefs. Is it often where the president or the prime minister or whatever disagrees with a lot of, like, the things that the party believes in, kind of
John
thing?
Quincy grew up to be one of the best presidents of all time. With the Louisiana Purchase, Thomas Jefferson doubled
his war was better
the
than
territory of his country overnight. He drafted the Declaration of Independence and was a leading proponent of one of America's most important values, secularism. His wall of separation between church and state protects religious minorities from discrimination, government from being corrupted by dogmatic values, and religion from being corrupted by politics. James Madison drafted the United States Constitution and Bill of Rights. Enough said. Unlike
entrenched your right to think he's awesome. Underwent great pains to protect
many
freedom.
founding fathers, James Monroe was a strong supporter of the French Revolution and thus the spread of Republican values. As ambassador to France, he secured the release of Thomas Paine, another international friend of liberty, who had been arrested for his opposition to the brutal execution of the deposed King of France. John Quincy Adams negotiated the end of the foolish War of 1812, paid off much of the national debt, and promoted economic modernization and education. He was a leading opponent of slavery and suggested that if a civil war were to break out, the president could end slavery by decree by using his war powers. That just might be where Lincoln got the idea for the Emancipation Proclamation. Andrew Jackson was perhaps the only president in history brave enough to take on the banks. His enemies accused him of class warfare, which basically means fighting for the poor and weak against the rich.
Oh, wow. I mean, that's got to be one of the best things as well. I mean, they're all good things, but I like that a lot. Helping the poor against the rich. You don't see that often nowadays, do you?
Powerful.
In any circumstance, anywhere.
Believe it or not, Martin Van Buren's presidency marked real victory for diversity. He was the first president whose ancestry was not English. In fact, he remains to this day the only president in
Wait, so the other ones were all English? That's kind of wild as well.
history who spoke English as a second language, and his supporters were quite diverse
Dutch.
for the time.
Maybe.
Van Buren rejected the admission of Texas into the Union.
Wait, I'm just going to see the Trump thing. I'm going to search him up as well. John. I knew it was J. Van Buren. Oh, shit. Oh shit, we're the president. So it said his second language was English. He sounds quite Dutch, so I'm gonna say that, but nah. I mean, he's born in New York, so I mean, I guess that's Wikipedia. There we go. It usually says it up here somewhere. His name sounds really Dutch, Martin Van Buren. Does it say his father was a descendant of Cornelius Mason, a native Netherlands? Come on, but I know my names, bro. I know my names.
On the grounds that it would cause war with Mexico, he turned out to be right. Prior to being were quite diverse for the time. Van Buren rejected the admission of Texas into the Union on the grounds that it would cause war with Mexico. He turned out to be right.
Shit.
Prior to being elected president and promptly dying, William Henry Harrison found a way of spreading American values through Latin America that didn't involve the overthrow of democratically elected leaders. He urged the legendary Latin American revolutionary Simón Bolívar to adopt democratic policies. It didn't exactly take, but it was worth a shot. Gotta be honest, John Tyler's a tough one. But when he retired from the House of Representatives, he endorsed his former opponent for the seat. That's a pretty classy move. It's generally agreed that Polk came through on his campaign promises. One of them was that he would not seek re-election after one successful term. Sure enough, that's exactly what he did.
I feel like that's how you know a president hasn't got, like, I mean, not an ego, but he sort of said it and he's done it kind of thing. Like I feel like a lot of people would sort of see being president for 2 terms and be like, I can make a legacy here. And probably for a good reason, right? Good and bad reason. But I like it. Definitely shows he doesn't have... I don't know if ego is the right word, but I feel like it will... Is what I'm saying make sense? Please tell me.
Despite being a slave owner himself, Zachary Taylor did not push for the expansion of slavery. Millard Fillmore more or less lived the American dream. He had no formal schooling as a child and was born in a log cabin. Despite this, he rose to become President of the United States, and that's worth some admiration. Franklin Pierce, like most of the pre-Civil War presidents, is largely remembered as a total failure. But in that incredibly polarizing climate, few, if any, could really have gotten much of anything good done. Pierce was known to be a warm person and a skilled politician. He tried to be a unifier. His failures were quite likely unavoidable consequences of his time. Buchanan is rightly remembered for his great devotion to the law. Lincoln is quite often ranked as the greatest president in American history.
The GOAT!
And for good reason. He saw the
overcame crippling
country through its most turbulent time, winning the Civil War. Although he did not do it alone, he oversaw the end of slavery. He cleverly pitted his enemies against each other, and his Gettysburg Address is one of the most beautiful political speeches in history. Andrew Johnson was a strict constitutionalist. Ulysses S. Grant did much to stop the KKK's reign of terror, promote the 15th Amendment, seat black state legislators in southern states, and make peace with Native Americans.
Wait.
Ulysses S. Grant did much to stop the KKK's reign of terror, promote the 15th Amendment, seat black state legislators in southern states, and make peace with Native Americans.
God damn, I feel like I've not really heard much about this guy's name, but from this stuff that he's just said, seems like a good guy. But again, maybe it's just saying it's just saying all the good stuff. The bad stuff maybe outweighs it. But I mean, from seeing that, it sounds like a proper top dog, mate.
American tribes. Hayes contributed greatly to the modernization of the American bureaucracy, installing a merit-based appointment process, weeding out corruption in the postal service, and issuing
corruption in the postal service. What corruption's in the postal service?
An executive order that made it illegal for federal office holders to be forced to participate in party politics. If he was never assassinated, Garfield likely would have continued the civil service reforms initiated
of minorities in lasagna
by Hayes. He recognized that blacks were being denied their civil rights, wanted to extend public education to blacks, and appointed several black leaders like Frederick Douglass to powerful positions in government. Like few politicians of his time, Chester A. Arthur avoided scandal and corruption and was known to be true to his word. Grover Cleveland also opposed political corruption as well as imperialism. Benjamin Harrison attempted to secure federal education funding and voting rights enforcement for black Americans. McKinley's presidency marked rapid economic growth and a decisive victory in the Spanish-American War. Teddy Roosevelt was a great defender of conservationism, establishing numerous national parks. He broke up corporate monopolies, supported labor unions, and pressed Congress to pass the Pure Food and Drug Act, which banned impure or falsely labeled consumables. Taft actually broke up more monopolies than Roosevelt, and the widely believed story that he was so fat he got stuck in a White House bathtub, well, unfortunately, that's not true. Woodrow Wilson is best known for promoting global democracy and establishing the League of Nations, the predecessor
actually did things for his Nobel Prize.
of the UN. He innovated a regulatory...
He has a Nobel Prize. How many presidents have a Nobel Prize? I wonder how many prime ministers in England have a Nobel Prize. Do any?
...approach to breaking up monopolies. He avoided fighting in World War I until Germans sunk American ships.
I remember that he wanted to avoid it as much as possible until they pretty much got forced into it.
Although the US had played a relatively small role in the war, Wilson played a pivotal role in the Paris Peace Conference. Harding supported equal political rights for blacks, spoke out against lynching, and released political prisoners, like socialist leader Eugene Debs, who was imprisoned by Wilson for speaking out against the war. Coolidge called for the federal criminalization of lynching and granted US citizenship to all Native Americans living on reservations. Herbert Hoover wanted to
I still can't believe lynching was a thing. It just
focus on eliminating waste in government institutions, but was instead forced to spend his presidency dealing with the Great Depression. He attempted to combat it with large-scale public works projects like the Hoover Dam. FDR actually used similar tactics quite successfully. FDR saw the United States through a period of economic disaster and global war. But the most crucial aspect of his legacy was the New Deal. He created Social Security and reformed the financial system.
I mean, shit, he was put into a shit situation and he built it up. And I mean, probably is one of the reasons the US was able to get back to like the powerful nation it was. But like, it sort of fell down, came back up, and came back stronger.
To prevent future collapse. Indeed, the U.S. did not experience another serious financial crisis until the critical aspects of its financial reforms, like the Glass-Steagall Act, were dismantled. Truman prioritized civil rights. He integrated the military and federal agencies, and he proposed the creation of federal offices to protect voting rights and fair employment practices. Eisenhower created NASA and warned the country of the dangers of the military-industrial complex.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
Kennedy took responsibility for the Bay of Pigs, even though it was actually the previous administration that planned it. He negotiated a test ban treaty, championed Medicare, and inspired America to go to the moon.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing.
I love how sort of some presidents before will sort of create this thing, again, as for NASA, and then the next president's like the one promoting it, and then the next one's like where it actually happens. It's cool how it sort of passes on, and these things are slowly changing, getting better and better. I like it. I do think it's pretty cool, because obviously you can't do things instantly. If a president tried to just instantly change everything, it's just not going to happen. It's like sort of slowly changing these things that lead to these things changing in like 30, 40 years time, maybe less, maybe more.
Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
LBJ worked against great opposition to get the Civil Rights Bill passed into law. He had to convince Republicans to vote for the bill, and successfully convinced their leader, Everett Dirksen, to make it happen.
Got to shove Martin Luther King, but God damn.
Nixon enforced the integration of Southern schools, ended the war in Vietnam, and created the EPA. Ford didn't
Who started the war in Vietnam?
Get much done in his short time in office, but his famous clumsiness fueled Chevy Chase's career on SNL, and that show is still really good. Carter pardoned Vietnam draft dodgers, built the Departments of Education and Energy, and created a lasting peace between Egypt and Israel. Since leaving office, he's continued to do incredible work, criticizing the use of drones, the Iraq War, and Guantanamo Bay, supporting Habitat for Humanity, and practically eliminating the guinea worm disease.
From what I tell from this guy, he did a lot of stuff in other countries and helped a lot of other countries out. That's what I'm sensing.
Ronald Reagan is a legend among Republicans, but he was not totally uncompromising in his right-wing policy. He actually raised taxes 11 times. Although often Ronald Reagan is a legend among Republicans, but he was not totally uncompromising in his right-wing policy. He actually raised taxes 11 times. Although often...
Is that a good thing? Wait, I'm kind of lost. I guess it's a good thing because it's against... I don't know, I'm kind of lost with it.
Ridiculed for his vision thing, quote, was Bush's practical approach to politics really such a bad thing? Unlike any other American president, George H.W. Bush was more concerned with dealing with the complex problems he had to deal with than inundating the public with propaganda. Clinton oversaw massive growth in the US economy, and at least for his first term, was smart enough to have Robert Reich working for him as Secretary of Labor. I've already given W some credit for his unbigoted disposition. He also just generally seems to be an affable guy.
I've just... Wait. That's his dad. I've just realised it was his son. George... Wait, that's not the same guy, is it? That's a different guy. I didn't realise that. I've never known that. What the fuck?
His unbigoted disposition. He also just generally seems to be an affable guy. His gaffes are ridiculously funny even to this day, and since leaving office he started painting people he met as president. That's pretty adorable. While a little too obsessed with compromise and bipartisanship for my taste, it's a small tragedy that history will almost certainly remember Obama first and foremost as being the first black president. Sure, that sends a strong and important message to children of color, but Obama did a lot of truly great things for the country. Even if repealed, the legacy of Obamacare will make it near impossible for health insurance companies to be...
I do like Obama, man. He's just... little things like his mic dropping. He just does these things that you just can't not love him. For me, anyway, I just enjoyed the stuff that he did. Again, I don't really know much about the politics. Obviously, he's explaining it now, but just his sort of aura, I just loved it, man.
Possible for health insurance companies to be allowed to discriminate based on pre-existing conditions in the future.
That's kind of wild. So if someone like was born with conditions, they're just going to be paying more, I guess. And I guess he helped people with that situation.
Obama was the first president to openly support gay rights, and he ended Don't Ask, Don't Tell. He oversaw the end of the Great Recession, and his presidency marks the end of the fruitless war in Iraq and a partial but significant withdrawal from Afghanistan. In his rhetoric, Trump is amongst the most populist presidents in U.S. history. If he focuses his efforts on actually improving the lives of poor and middle-class people, rather than protecting corporations and billionaires like himself, he'll be remembered as an incredible and brave reformer. I have my doubts, but he did block TPP. If he gives us more of that and knocks it off with the ridiculous...
What's TPP? I guess that's one thing I would give him. He just sort of said stuff. Like, other presidents, I feel like they wouldn't say certain things. I don't actually know. But maybe they wouldn't say certain things. He would just say anything. A lot of bad, maybe a lot of good. But he said it, and I guess, like he said, he wasn't afraid to... What was it? Afraid to like make reform.
Incredible and brave reformer. I have my doubts, but he did block TPP. If he gives us more of that and knocks it off with the ridiculous wall and the Muslim ban, he'll make a believer out of me. Thanks for watching this video. Shout out to
the Muslim ban. What the fuck's that?
Chad Doyle.
But yeah, man, I can sort of sense why they should have dislikes, because he'd probably say little things here and there to sort of discredit the things that they've done. But I still enjoyed this video. It was just fun to see. Eisenhower created NASA and his face is really hard to draw. He called me ugly, but I overcome that. Jimmy Carter is the only post-World War II president not to drop a single bomb. I think you should have mentioned George W. Bush's work against AIDS in Africa. His administration's work there likely saved millions of lives. Big thing, man. Again, everybody gangster until the monopoly man becomes president but breaks more monopolies than stuff there. Reagan, in my opinion, did 3 good things: help ban ozone-destroying chemicals, prioritize curbing inflation, being the funniest president. Jimmy Carter may have been a so-so president, but after his presidency, it really shined that he was just a good person. Something great about every president: Obamacare. Something bad about every president: Obamacare. Wait, why is this? Is there like some sort of thing that I don't know about with Obamacare? Should have mentioned that Eisenhower built the highway system. That's a big thing, to be fair. When you said Taft didn't get stuck in the bathtub, you broke my heart. George W. Bush actually seems like a nice guy. LJ didn't have to convince Republicans, he had to convince Democrats, which is why it was seen as a hard thing to do. I just want to see how many Democratic presidents has there been versus Republican. I'm interested in seeing... I couldn't do that. I don't want to just see in the 20th century. Tell me how many Democratic and how many the differences. I'm just trying to see. Democratic and Republican. Why did I search Democratic and Republican? Tell me how many of each there were. I'm interested in that. But I mean, yeah, I mean, hopefully you want them to enjoy this one. More videos like this in the future. Like I said, I'll maybe doing something ugly about every president in US history, if you want that. But I don't know. Maybe this won't go down well. But hopefully you went on to enjoy. Hopefully I didn't offend you with anything. I was just trying to watch this and just see really. But yeah, until next time, like, subscribe. Peace.